Hello, and welcome to this 8-week class called Connect 101. I'm Associate Pastor Cory Martin here at the Oakland Evangelical Free Church, and I'll be leading you through this class to just let you know more about what our church is about, what our mission is, how our constitution and bylaws are set up, what we believe in terms of our statement of faith, and other things that we'll be covering in this class. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll get started. This is our class that we intend for people who've been attending for just a short period of time, although long period people can also benefit from reviewing what this church is about and why we think Jesus put us here in this community. So first of all, I want to tell you about our mission. The mission is something that we will repeat quite a lot, and you've probably noticed in our worship services, we share this every week. And we are here intentionally connecting the disconnected to Jesus through authentic relationships. And this will be your final exam at the end of our 8 sessions. I'd like you to be able to write this mission statement out on a small card for me and show me that you have learned it. And we'll spend a little time each session just talking about just the individual parts of that mission and what they mean to us. I'll start just with some introductions. In our class, we go around and we just share with each other what we are, but I'll go ahead and just share with you a little bit about me. My name, again, is Cory Martin, and I live 4 miles north of Oakland on Highway 77 with my wife, Tracy. Tracy is a family physician at the Oakland Clinic here in Oakland. And something interesting about me, I just want to tell you a little bit about the fact that you might have noticed that I never wear shoes. And I just want to tell you why that is. About 12 years ago, I was reading in a creationist magazine called Answers Magazine about the human foot and how complex it is and perfectly designed it is, and how wearing a shoe actually is like putting a cast on your foot, and it keeps the foot from exercising the way it ought to. And I was kind of intrigued by that, and I found out that there are other health benefits to going barefoot. I started reading things up on it. I started looking online and learning that there's a lot of good health benefits from not wearing shoes nearly as often as we're used to. Also for me, there are some spiritual benefits. I remember the story of God and Moses in front of the burning bush, and how God said, remove the sandals from your feet, for the place where you're standing is holy ground. And so being barefoot for me also reminds me that I'm always in God's presence and always standing on holy ground. And also it gives me a sense of awareness and presence. I really love the fact that every step for me is different. And really, the fact is, after being this way for 12 years, it's hard to change back. And a lot of people will ask, well, what about in the winters? What about snow? And the fact is that, yes, for a short time, I don't mind walking through snow or out in the cold, as long as I'm not going to be out there too long or it's not too terribly cold. I find that there are lots of different kinds of snows, and some snows are like walking in vanilla ice cream. So that's the barefoot story that a lot of people, especially new attenders, might wonder about. I want to share a little bit about how I came to know the Lord. I grew up in a Christian home and was accustomed to going to church every Sunday. I was baptized at church camp at age 12, and then as a teenager, I was mentored by our minister, whose name was Larry Fiscus, and he really had a big impact on me. When I went to college, I realized it was sink or swim time as far as my faith was concerned, and I chose to swim. I got involved in a bunch of Christian college groups, or 2 different main groups that I was a part of. and was a leader in those. And I felt I really grew a whole lot in my college years and also into my career as an aerospace engineer in St. Louis. While I was in St. Louis, I also took night classes and got a Master of Arts in Theology at Covenant Seminary, which is a very theologically conservative seminary of the Presbyterian Church of America. And then my wife, she graduated at the same time from medical school and got her MD. And we went off to residency in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I decided I would stay home with the kids and became a homeschool teacher. And we moved to Oakland in the year 2000. And I continued homeschooling my kids for about 12 to 14 years and graduated them. And after they graduated, I decided to study up on life coaching. And I gained a credential as a coach. And also I was hired from within the church to help Pastor Mike as the associate pastor of this church. I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to attend this particular church. We were interviewing with Tracy's job at the Oakland clinic. And we were kind of interested in, well, what's the church like here in Oakland? And we were referred to Mark and Terry Wallerstedt. And we said, well, and they said, you ought to go up and meet them and get to know them. So we did. And then they invited us to visit the church. And so I remember the day when we came to visit the church, how Mark Wallerstedt was like not even inside the door. He was outside looking for us when we arrived to meet us, even before we got to the door. And so we knew from the start that this was the church that we wanted to be a part of. I'm going to now introduce you just to some of the leadership of the church. And we'll just start by introducing you to Pastor Mike Seckler. Mike's wife's name is Tracy, and they have 5 children and 2 foster children. And they have 1 grandchild, who I'll tell you more about later. Something about Mike that you probably ought to know is that his son Micah went to be with the Lord in 2012 from complications from kidney failure. And that's a hard event in Mike's life, and yet he's not afraid to talk about it. He has dealt very well with the grief that he feels. But we know that Mike is with the Lord now. This is myself. I'm an associate pastor here and life coach with my wife. I've got 3 children, Jessica, Jeremy, and Steve. They're all adults now and living their own lives. This is our chairman of the board, Elder Mark Wallerstedt. Mark is a farmer, and he's also works at his own Harvest Moon Weddings and Pumpkin Patch, which is about 3 miles north of Oakland on Highway 77. His wife, Terry, is sort of the business owner, and you need to make sure you visit there later on this month to see them. They've got 5 children who are all adults and many, many grandchildren. This is our elder, Paul Tim. Paul, you'll sometimes see leading worship. He is a science teacher at the Lyons High School. His wife's name is Adrian, and he has 3 children, Alexander, Carolyn, and Natalie. And that's Paul. This is Aaron Meyer. He is a grade school science teacher here in Oakland. His wife's name is Tanya. Tanya is the Sunday school superintendent here at our church. Aaron has 4 children, Danielle, Jaron, Dawson, and Jaylee. And they have 1 grandchild, Marjorie, who is the daughter of Danielle and her husband, Daniel Seckler. So Aaron is the father of Danielle, and Pastor Mike is the father of Daniel. They got married. And so Aaron and Pastor Mike are now related through that marriage. So that's kind of an interesting thing to note about that. And they do have a grandchild named Marjorie that they are loving up on. This is Craig Brokaw. Craig is a construction contractor. His wife's name is Melissa, and he has 3 daughters. And this is Fred Hansen. And Fred is a retired superintendent for the Lyons School District. His wife's name is Rhonda, and he's got 4 daughters, Kelly, Kendra, Kristen, and Kim, and 10 grandchildren at my last count. All right, and one more thing I want to tell you about our elder board meetings. We usually meet kind of on the first, well, we usually meet every other Wednesday. Sometimes that would be the first and third, and other times second and fourth. Lots of exceptions to that. Those are generally open meetings. And so if you'd like to come and meet with us and let us pray for you or get to know you better, you're always welcome to let us know. And we are a relational board. I think all of us make sure that we spend a lot of time connecting as far as what's going on in our lives and what we need prayer for. We all leave these meetings feeling energized and excited about the ministry of the church. It's really a great board to be a part of, and I'm sure if you talk to any of the other guys, they would agree. Finally, I want to introduce you to our administrative assistant. This is Teresa Martinson. She is recently hired now in 2024 and is coming up to speed on how the church works and how the front office works. Next, I want to share with you just a brief history of this church. And our church was founded in 1895 as the first Swedish Evangelical Free Church in Oakland. And I've got a actual copy of the Constitution and Articles of Incorporation for this church. And it also has written in it, it has the bylaws and Constitution written in both Swedish and in English, and a list of the original contributors to the church. So we actually have this artifact here in the pastor's office. We also have some meeting notes that we found and we digitized for historical purposes that has meeting minutes from practically the entire history of the church. These here are from 1921 to 1969. And so we've got a lot of historical documents associated with our church. This is a picture of the original 1895 building that I'm not quite sure where it was located, but it was where they met until 1915 when they built their next building. The North Thomas Church building was constructed and dedicated in 1915. And then 2 years later, they constructed the parsonage right next to it. And here's a picture of the church building as it was there on North Thomas Avenue, and then also the parsonage right next to it. In 1950, the Swedish Evangelical Free Church and the Norwegian Danish Evangelical Free Church in the United States merged to form the Evangelical Free Church of America. And so our church automatically became a member of the Evangelical Free Churches of America at that time. So in 1995, they constructed the current building that we're in here at 821 East Fulton. And it's interesting to note that that was on the 100th anniversary of our church, which was founded in 1895. They dedicated the current building and moved into the current building. 3 years later, they constructed the youth area and Sunday school addition, which is basically the south end of the church. And then in 2004, they demolished the North Thomas Church building. There were, in that interim period for about 6 years, they used the North Thomas Church building for youth activities and different activities. But then in 2004, the upkeep was just too much. And so they decided to demolish that building. And so this area right here where the church building is now just a yard for the parsonage. And we did save some artifacts though when we did that. First of all, there's this cornerstone, which is actually from the original church that we were able to preserve, and it's found currently at our front door. And then also there's this stained glass that's hanging on the wall in our foyer. And then the last thing in my brief history is Pastor Mike, who was called to serve 9 years ago in 2015, and he's been our pastor ever since. Next, I want to just give you a little bit of a class overview of where we'll be going in this class. First of all, we just have today, which is our welcome session. And next time we will dig into our church vision and our mission statement. How did we come to this vision for our church? How did we devise the mission of our church? What are our strategies? What are our values? And how do we measure those things? We'll talk a little bit about that in our next session. Also, we'll spend 2 sessions talking about the statement of faith of our church and going over each one of those and the biblical basis behind it. We'll spend a session or 2 on our constitution and bylaws and how to become a member. And then finally, we'll spend a couple sessions on how you can find your place, how you can connect to this church, how you can be involved in the areas of your talents, and make the most out of the resources that this church has to offer. We have a lot of things that we'd like to offer to you, but also we want to make sure that you are connected to Jesus through this church and that you're an active and serving member in this church. We want you to feel good about what you're doing here. So again, I want to welcome you to our church, and hope that this is a great opportunity for you to learn more about what we do here. So that's all for this session, and we look forward to seeing you next time.